if we were raised hearing things like money doesn't grow on trees or money is the root of all evil, those create these subconscious beliefs and blocks at that kid, brain level. And it correlates directly to these deeply rooted emotional beliefs like we have to work really hard for money, or if I get rich, then I'm going to be punished. And these are all really deep hidden thoughts until you start actually going through this process.
Hey, Angela, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So everyone just heard my short little intro about you, and I would love for you to just say hello to everyone listening and introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Angela Christian. I am a best-selling author, a podcaster, a CFO, manifestation coach, and a mother of 3.
Love it. Now, what we're going to talk about today is the dimension of that relating to the manifestation coach. And I know that there's so many, I guess, assumptions or misconceptions about what manifestation actually is, because it's one of my favorite things to quote unquote make fun of about woo-woo people. It's like, I can just manifest my dream life and da-da-da. And I know there's a degree of reality in manifestation. But I think a lot of people really go to that next level of acting as though, or at least presenting as though manifestation can essentially create things out of thin air, or, all this stuff that sounds like magic. Can you just kind of give your take or your definition of manifestation and how you think it's applied?
Sure. So yes, manifestation has become like such a buzzword, and there's trends now on TikTok about it, but true manifestation isn't something that you do. It's actually a new way of life. And so my definition is aligning your mind, body, and spirit with the reality that you desire, and then feeling that as if it's happened now. And by mind, I mean subconscious beliefs and our ongoing thoughts. Body refers to taking aligned action. And then spirit is the higher consciousness that we all have within. So that's my definition.
Okay. What do you think are some of the misunderstandings around manifestation and what it's designed to do, or how it actually fits into your life?
Sure. So one of the biggest misconceptions, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, is I remember when I bought the book, The Secret, and I mean, that just became like a huge phenomenon. And then people thought that the law of attraction was all that they needed. And so people thought, oh, I'm just going to sit here and think good thoughts and that all of these things are going to come true, when that's not actually the case. Another big misconception is that people think if they just do all the things like say the affirmations, do the visualizations, the vision boards, the journaling, that that's all going to work. But it doesn't matter how many tools you use if you aren't first doing the inner work. And part of the inner work is understanding how the subconscious mind works, upgrading your beliefs, really having a good awareness and understanding of your thoughts and your emotions, which directly affect your reality, and then healing the parts of yourself that need it.
So, and you talk about this a bit. You obviously have a book that's out, which we're going to talk about soon, and you lead people through coaching through this. Can you give us some insights into how you actually implement this, like how you coach people through it, or the methods that you use, if there's some type of framework, obviously without giving away the whole thing, but what can you share with us around the frameworks that you share with clients?
Sure. So I have it into 3 different parts. So the first part is all about the foundation of manifestation. And this is where I talk a lot about these manifestation myths, and then I help people understand how their subconscious mind works. And then I also dive into helping them figure out like where their blocks or their false beliefs might be. At this level, I also teach the universal laws, which one of them is the law of attraction, but there's 11 other ones that matter, just as much as the law of attraction. I also teach them how to figure out which saboteurs are running their life. So it's really like the whole first part is about a deep dive into their mind, into their thoughts, and into their emotions. And these are things that we're not really taught, growing up. The second part of the is called the manifestation process. And this is where I help people figure out where they're currently at in terms of a manifestation level. There are 4 manifestation levels that I talk about in the book, and I talk about how to know which level you're at and how to move from level to level. The first level is called default manifester, which just means you're unaware of how you're manifesting and you're allowing your default thoughts and your emotions to rule your life. And it's kind of the thought that things are happening to you or life is happening to you. And this is where most people are, and they're operating based on the thoughts and beliefs that were passed on to us by our parents and society. The second level is called mental and material manifester. And here, these people have done a lot of inner work. They're probably seeing some success with physical manifestations, and they understand that life is happening for them and that they do have some control over reality. And it can feel like a lot of learning here, and you kind of get stuck with, wanting to learn more and more, or just wanting to keep manifesting like the car, the house, the partner, whatever. But once you kind of reach the limit of this level, you kind of feel like something's missing. And that's when you move on to what I call master manifester. And this is where manifestation works through you. And people here understand that the true manifestation is setting an intention and just surrendering and knowing it'll come through in the best possible way. But it takes a lot of inner work to get to that level. And an example would be like Gabby Bernstein. She's at this level. And then the fourth level is enlightenment and beyond, which very few people are at this level, where you understand you are divine consciousness. People here would be like Eckhart Tolle, Buddha, and Jesus. And so in my book, I talk about how we might be level 1 in terms of relationships, but then we might be a level 3 with money. It's not like a linear thing. And then we can definitely fall from like level 3 to level 1 if you're having some kind of crisis. But it's really just more about awareness and understanding. And then during the second part of the manifestation process, I also teach a specific framework where I teach people how to tap into clarity, focus, healing, and upgrading. So those are the 4 pieces that I really walk people through in my course. And I talk about them a little bit in the book, but it's more of like a hands-on type process. And then the final part of the book and the course contains all of the manifestation tools. And so everyone is really different. Some tools will work for one person, they won't work for another. For example, one student of mine, she couldn't visualize because of a brain injury, so she had to use, different techniques. I also share meditations, shamanic practices, and then tools like hypnotherapy at this level, because hypnotherapy was actually the fastest way I've seen myself and other people break through these blocks. And I'm actually getting certified in hypnotherapy, so that's pretty exciting. And then I also teach the basic tools like visualization, journaling, scripting, and vision boards. And then I kind of just let people play around with them and see what works best for them.
Okay. Would you classify manifestation the way that you view it as an art or as a science?
I would definitely, it's kind of both, but the way that I use it, because I do have like a logical, mind, I was in business and finance for so long, I kind of look at it more as like a science.
And why is that?
Because there's so many different pieces to it, and it's not just, you have to play around and figure out, you have to experiment and figure out what works for you. You might try this tool with this tool and it doesn't quite work, and so it's a lot of like trial and error. So in that way I feel like it's more of a science.
Okay. Who do you think is a good fit for manifestation topics? And where I'm coming from on this is I think there are a lot of folks who probably need this who aren't seeking it, or maybe they're new to this concept and realizing, oh, this actually exists, this is a thing, and maybe they haven't really really reflected and realized that they're kind of living in that default manifestor state, what type of person do you think is a good fit to begin their journey of exploring manifestation practices?
Sure. So, I mean, it could apply to anyone, but what I have found, most people that I work with are actually entrepreneurs or small business owners, and they might be seeing a lot of issues with money blocks. Because what we don't understand is if we were raised hearing things like money doesn't grow on trees or money is the root of all evil, those create these subconscious beliefs and blocks at that kid, brain level. And we start, it correlates directly to these deeply rooted emotional beliefs like we have to work really hard for money, or if I get rich, then I'm going to be punished. And these are all really deep hidden thoughts until you start actually going through this process. And when you think about them from a conscious standpoint, you think, oh, that's kind of silly, but they're there and they're, showing up in your reality. So for me, I feel like certain people have this, it's almost like a thermostat, when you set it to 67, no matter how hot or cold it is, it's going back to 67. So if you have this financial block from childhood and you don't do anything about it, you might have success and then you might come back down, or you might just be stuck at that level. So I have found this really helps people who are just kind of hitting a wall and want to go beyond.
And you mentioned some of the actual like tactics of manifestation. You mentioned like the visualization, the vision boards, things like that. At the surface level, I know these are all like tools that will help, right? It's all about mindset and it's all about the approach you're taking. What are some of the other more effective ways that people can begin exploring this idea of manifestation, or just to create smaller habits in their life that help contribute to it?
Sure. So, the first thing I always recommend to people is to just start auditing your thoughts and your emotions. That in itself is huge because you want to pay attention to any negative thoughts, especially about yourself, and just kind of looking at it from an experiment, like you're an outsider looking in, and you start to just look at, oh, where's this thought coming from? And then, understanding how that might be showing up in your life. That's a great place to start. Also, I do kind of simple manifestation techniques. Like I love visualization. I will just do it in the morning and at night and anytime during the day, where you just imagine whatever it is that you're wanting, and you just imagine yourself already having it and how that feeling would be, and then carry that feeling into the present moment. It might sound weird, but we are electromagnetic beings that we put out a frequency. When you are embodying that frequency now, then it just helps bring that into reality faster.
And like with the science of that too, because I hear people talk about frequency and vibrating and all this other stuff. Can you just break down for our listeners who maybe hear these terms and it just seems kind of foreign? Like when we talk about frequency, vibing, all this other stuff, what are we talking about?
Yeah, so it's really based on your thoughts and your emotions. And this is also how the law of attraction got a little bit confusing for people, because we are always manifesting based on our thoughts and our emotions. And the law of attraction will always bring something or someone to you, but it's the law of resonance, also called the law of vibration, that determines the what or the who based on your frequency and your vibration. For example, just like radio stations, if you want to tune into a certain radio station, you have to, dial it in on your radio. If we want to tune into something like massive wealth, but then our thoughts are always in scarcity and lack, and that's the vibration and the frequency that we're putting out, they don't match. So you're not going to tune into that, radio station of wealth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like the signal's not going to hit.
Exactly.
Gotcha. What when we talk about that, like, lack, scarcity versus abundance, wealth, what are the key differences to daily behaviors, we'll say, between someone who is in each of those different frequencies?
Yes. So this is something I have a lot of experience with because I used to be in lack, and you could definitely see that showing up in your life when you're in that lack mindset. It's, being scared to check your bank account, or not taking time to feel grateful for what you do have. And this might sound silly, but I'm teaching a whole free series on this December 5th, on the energy of money. But you have to look at money just like you would any other relationship. If you're telling someone like your partner, you're never there for me, I'm scared of you, all of these things, they're not probably going to stick around. And it's the same thing with money. You have to get into a good relationship with money. And that's one of the biggest issues for people. So if you're always scared to check your bank account and you're not grateful for what you do have, that's like a lack scarcity mindset. Or you're always wondering, how am I going to, make more money? It's a fine line between the worrying or taking like small aligned action. And so someone in a more wealth and abundant mindset would, they find a penny on the ground and they're like, "Oh, so grateful for this penny." And it might sound funny, but it's about building a more positive relationship with the energy of money.
Yes, and I've had friends and coaches who have like kind of taken the approach of seeing that penny on the street and going, "Yes, more, please," like as
Yeah,
a gift,
exactly.
and going, "Thank you." There's so many different things that you can do to embody that, and it sounds so silly when you say it out loud and when your logical brain kicks in, but at the same time,
Yep.
you're associating an emotion with it, because
Yep.
I think that my interpretation of what you're saying too is that we are associating an emotion with almost anything that happens to us and for us. That when
Yep.
what you're putting out in the world is, I want this to happen again, or I don't want this to happen again. And then
Yeah, exactly.
creating a path forward, a choose your own adventure, if you will, based on those different roads that everything is going, right? So you're turning a corner and saying, I don't want that to happen again because of how you reacted to it. And then the universe, whatever we call it, then says, okay, noted, won't make that happen again.
Yep.
Or I want to head in this direction. And then you start surrounding yourself with thoughts and emotions and environments that foster that, if I'm not understanding all that correctly.
Yeah, exactly. And that reminded me of two things I do talk about in the book and the course. Is one is building those new neural pathways,
Right.
to create a different kind of response. Exactly. And then also I teach how to use your reticular activating system, which is shows up like if you're looking for a blue Subaru, for example, and you're searching for it, pretty soon you're going to see blue Subarus on the freeway. It's not magic. They've always been there, but you're telling your brain that it's important, and now it's showing you because our mind wants to help us. So when you understand these types of rules of the mind and how it works, then exactly you're telling the universe, or whatever you like to call it, like, yes, I want more money, I want more of that, I want more of that. And then that just starts inviting it in. And another thing that I do is anytime I spend money, I always tell myself there's more where that came from. And then I actually see it like multiplying. And that's just another like tip where if you're spending money and all of a sudden you feel horrible every time you spend money, that's going to create like a negative scarcity mindset. But if you're looking at it like, you know what, I know there's more where that came from and money likes to multiply, then that's just another little technique you can do.
Yeah, and I actually heard, I think it was Angie Lee. I want to give her credit if this was what she said, but I heard on a podcast someone saying that the thought of money was like when she spends money, she goes, can't wait to see you again. And like says almost like goodbye for now until I see you again. As though it's never saying goodbye and letting it go, but it's like it will come back to me. Uh, and I also became aware of our language when it comes to money. Two things that I didn't realize that I now consciously am aware of. One is we talk about circulation, right? Circulation. So when we talk about circulation of money, like, oh yeah, the circulation of money, I'm going, they literally say coming around, coming back again, right? There
Yep.
isn't any, we're not deleting money. We're creating money every day and it's circulating. And the other part of it was currency, the term
Mm-hmm.
currency. And I go, like a current, it's constantly moving.
Yep.
So when I heard those terms in the context of money, I was like, huh. It's always been in our vernacular. It just hasn't been a conscious, definition. So I think that's a really cool way to look at it is, it's always going to come back to you.
Exactly. And yeah, and that's what I teach too, are certain things about money. Is money loves to circulate. That's one of them. Money loves focus. So that's like, thanking it, being grateful for even seeing a penny on the ground. Money loves celebration. So celebrating, wins with your community or your friends. And then money loves community. And there's so many different things, but it's just about building that relationship with energy, which, yes, currency, money is just energy.
So you mentioned auditing your thoughts and emotions as a way to identify where you could use more of this in your life or how to get started. Can you share some tips on how to actually audit your thoughts and emotions? Like, what does that actually mean? Is that journaling? Is that reflection? Is that like, what is the actual practice of the audit?
Yes, so I recommend keeping a journal at least for like even a few days and just writing down any thoughts that are repetitive or any type of negative thoughts or words. Like if you catch yourself saying, uh, God, I'm so stupid, or something like that, anything that you're talking negative about yourself, because there is some kind of subconscious belief or block there, and then you're reinforcing that. So those are the kind of, negative thoughts that we want to heal and stop. So that's one of the ways. And also just being aware of when you find yourself in a negative emotion, just tracing that back. Like, okay, what triggered that? Was something said? Did I think of something? Um, and keeping track of that. And if you do that for a few days, it does become more, it becomes easier to do that on an ongoing basis. Like, I think I've done such a good job of having pretty positive thoughts because I've been doing this for so long. And it's not that you have to stay like high vibe all the time. That's not possible. But it's just about giving yourself that grace. And then if you are feeling something like anger or sadness, let yourself feel that, but then don't get stuck in the emotions. And that's what I find a lot of people do. That's going back to the default manifester level where it's kind of like victimhood and blaming. If you catch yourself where you're like feeling sorry for yourself or you're blaming everybody else, like I used to blame my parents for everything until I started, learning all of these techniques and starting to take more of a radical self-responsibility role. So when you catch yourself in those kinds of victimhood or blame, really thinking about it from an outsider's perspective, taking responsibility, for your peace, and then just asking yourself, like, what thoughts or emotions can I have around this to heal it and move beyond so they don't just get stuck in that negative like vortex.
Yeah, so it's about finding what thoughts and emotions serve a solution as opposed
Right.
to let you sink into the blame or whatever it may be. I think that's so powerful to actually explore and to actually be honest with yourself. That's another thing. It requires a lot of honesty because you have to
Exactly.
really dig deeper to understand like what am I feeling and actually label those emotions
Mhm.
and label the thoughts because I think we all have these thoughts daily but we're not conscious that we're having them and we're also not really provoked unless we're doing something like journaling. We're not really provoked to think about them. So it's a really
Mhm.
good practice. I've actually started, I joined Brennan Burchard's Growth Day recently, and every
Oh
day
yeah.
you have an evening review journal. And it was something I
Mhm.
appreciated today, something I could have done better, something I could have done to connect better. And then there was, if I were my own high performance coach, what would I say? And that is like my favorite freaking question because
Yep.
we're all so good at coaching other people. And then we get that question and we're like, I know what I would say, but I don't want to hear
Yeah,
it. But it's
exactly.
exactly the thought you have to make progress. You mentioned, Angela, a little bit about like your own journey with this. Can you just tell the folks listening more about your own journey with manifestation, how you became so interested in this topic and your own kind of up leveling that you've gone through?
Sure. So in 2015, I was really sick. I was actually near death. My children were very sick because of a toxic mold issue in our home. We had to just walk away from our home and everything in it. It was a really pivotal moment of my life. And Western medicine wasn't helping us. And so I started seeking out like alternative forms of healing. And that's when I really started learning more about spirituality. I started studying with mystics, with shamans, energy healers, psychics, and I just kind of threw myself into this new world that I had never really dabbled in before. And that's when I started understanding that manifestation is an innate gift and it's wisdom that we have within. It's just we don't tap into it. And the medicine men and women that I worked with, they have such a long, like 50,000 years of these practices that, they were handed down orally to each other. And we just don't have those here. And they're just not part of our modern day toolbox. So I started learning a lot about how to heal on my body level and then my mind and then my emotional level. And I started understanding from all of my teachers how I had been just in such a state of blame and shame. And I was a very unconscious person. I was just numbing out in any possible way, just really living a default life at that point. And when you're faced with that kind of like life or death situation, you realize you really have to, do you want to live a better life or do you want to just stay kind of living the status quo? And hopefully people don't have to get to the life and death part of it. But that's why I'm so passionate about this, because you don't have to wait till you're facing, illness or loss. You can start doing it now and really improve your life. And since I started that, my life has dramatically improved in a lot of areas. And while I'm not perfect, I do have a really good sense of radical self responsibility. I look at things differently. My energy with money, my relationship with money has improved. And what I find is it's okay to still fall back into, those default patterns if you catch yourself and you don't give yourself a hard time. So it was a really long journey during that time. I read so many books on manifestation. I took so many courses, but it really came down to just understanding the energetic basics of it and understanding that we are electromagnetic beings. And that I just didn't grasp for a really long time. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to grasp because it's not something tangible that you can see or feel. Um, and so that's kind of how my journey went. And I started seeing a lot of success with my manifestation and, in different areas of my life. And I realized, okay, it's time for me to then share with other people. And so I'm really passionate about helping people. And I love when my, students will come to me and say, oh, I manifested this, I manifested that, because I feel like I'm actually making a difference and a positive impact in people's lives.
I love that. And one of the ways you're doing that is with your book. So could you tell everyone listening more about your book, Manifestation Mastery, and what is included in there and what people can expect if they pick up a copy?
So, my book is all about the different parts of manifestation that I covered a little bit today. It dives deeper into those different parts. It also talks about my journey. So, each chapter has a personal story of mine, some kind of transformation that I went through. And at the end of each chapter, I have a practice or a technique that you can do at home to start seeing some change and transformation on your end. I also have 3 free bonuses that you can get when you purchase the book, whether it's the Kindle version or the paperback. And those 3 bonuses are trainings on healing some of your blocks and your beliefs. And then if you like what's in the book and you want to go deeper, then I do offer a 12-week coaching course program that will begin January 30th. And I'll also send you the link to that. And that's more of a deeper dive into all of these different parts, the foundation, the process, the tools. But I meet with you twice a week and make sure that you're staying on track and helping you with your beliefs and your blocks, creating hypnotic audios for you to listen to, meditations, and really just helping you transform over those 12 weeks.
Well, this is amazing. Thank you, Angela, for sharing that information about your book. And thank you for coming on the show today. We really appreciate it. And for those of you listening, if you share this episode, if you post to social media and you want to share this episode and tag me and Angela, we'll make sure our handles are in the show notes, then I will be grabbing a lucky winner to win a copy of Angela's book, and I will send that over to you. So share and tag myself and Angela Christian on Instagram, and you'll be entered to win. Thank you so much, Angela, for coming on, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.